Right. First response here came from Yana Burtney, and she says the hope, what drives her work, the hope of inspiring my students to become the future leaders we need, the desire to be better than I was yesterday, and to raise the standard of what a quality martial arts school should be. So she obviously teaches martial arts, but there again, back to the cathedral type, concept of what are you doing? She could say, I teach karate or whatever it is, whatever type of martial arts, I teach that. But that's not what she said. It's inspiring my students to become the future leaders we need. So she sees more obviously in what she's doing. And that is the key driver. Now, she didn't mention money, but I'm sure that that's part of it. We can pretty much say that that's, a given in this aspect, but again, pointing to the bigger power of the drive of a deeper purpose than the face value of whatever product or service we are employed in. Marty Sellers, I know Marty, he is a pilot. Actually, I don't even know if he's a pilot, but he takes aerial photography. That's what he does. So I don't know if he is just a photographer. He does a piloting as well, but I see a lot of his posts on Facebook of these cool aerial views. It's interesting. I wonder what he's doing at this point with the competition of drones, but I see a lot from him. So apparently he's still very employed. But he said food, clothing, and shelter. And it's interesting, Brian Lynchard, and Brian is a member in my Driven to Live community, which as I say that, I don't know if I will have officially launched it to the public when this publishes, but if you hear that, so be it. There you go, kevinmiller.co/community, and you'll find the Driven to Live community. So Brian's a guy that I reached out to be a part of the initial group that joined there. And he said breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So Marty said food, clothing, shelter. Brian said breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, I guess you expect me to go, okay, those are just the base things, right? We're looking for the deeper meaning. Really, whether or not these guys were totally serious in their post, I obviously chose to read them because we're talking about drive. What gets you excited? And, Marty says food, clothing, and shelter. I mean, my gosh, how many days did I do work that I cared about my work. It mattered to me. But what was my main goal? Man, it is helping fund my new home that I built, 12 years ago. That's shelter. I mean, that was my drive. That's what most excited me about my work. Because at that point, it was, again, even though I enjoyed my work, what I was most interested in during that building period was this home and moving into this custom dream home for our family. And so the shelter was it was the drive. And man, if you like clothes, that's great. I enjoy my athletic clothes. I guess I don't think much about the other stuff. I enjoy the stuff I get from mountain biking. And food, man, I remember the days when we were scrounging for food. My gosh, I was an elite cyclist, and getting any kind of food in us was key. And it sure wasn't expensive food because we couldn't afford a lot back then. And today I am grateful for the matter of fact, today I may go out and if I have a hankering for it, get some sushi. I mean, so that, food, clothing, and shelter. Now, if it's the basics in your survival mode, you're grateful for work and the money to afford that. But I'm grateful that I can afford abundance in those things. And I do love breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Again, we're talking about the drive. And if you look at it and I got to do the stupid job just so I can eat, that's not a great drive. But if it's, man, I'm excited to do whatever my work is because I appreciate eating good food and having nice clothes or decent clothes or enjoyable clothes or shelter, and then the other amenities that we have. I mean, I'm grateful that I have, my mountain biking gear and kayaking gear and hiking and camping supplies. I mean, you get the point. But again, we're looking for what gives us inspiration and relative drive in our work. Katarzyna says survival, service work. She does service work opportunities for those whom I work with who are limited in what they're able to do. So she's kind of running the gamut there of even from survival up to the work she feels like is a service and interacting and benefiting those she works with. Ruben says self-actualization. Also says curiosity. No day is ever the same in the car business. I look forward to finding a solution for my clients and meeting new people. Performance and pay is his third thing. There's no cap on what I can make. We're going to come back to a couple of these aspects that he talked about that some other people shared as well, including my dad, Dan Miller, the Work You Love guru. But it's interesting, self-actualization. How many of us look at our work and appreciate how it grows us and expands us, even amongst the challenges? That's not Pollyanna stuff, but can you look at a challenge and say, you know, this is growing me. I'm getting experience. I'm getting wisdom even from this thing. Does your work allow you to? Now, if you are employed in a job right now that does not require much of you, that is pretty rote and mundane, you may not be experiencing a lot of self-actualization, something to consider. And curiosity. No day is ever the same in the car business. So he likes this. I appreciate that I have new things coming. But again, that's a personality thing. You may get more out of having a matter of fact. I did a show not long ago, probably on the Ziglar Show podcast. And it was about, I'm going to paraphrase and play with the concept a little bit, but it was about doing some of the things that are kind of easy and rote and monotonous that frees our mind up to be curious, to think of other things. And I know some people who have work that's not super demanding, but allows them time to be creative and give attention to other areas of their life as well. Again, I'm going to continue saying this over and over and over and over. I'll probably say the word again too many times on the show, but my point that we're talking about here is drive, is having good, positive, healthy drive for our daily work. Not saying what that drive is, only you can. We're just trying to get you to chime in and be more aware than ever of what is driving you, or again, what you want driving you, because you may be in a place right now where you can't find a drive that thrills you. And if that's the case, then this is helping you find a direction for your next opportunity. And, you know, I appreciate Ruben saying performance pay. There's no cap on what I can make. He's probably talking about commissions. Most people in car business have commissions. Again, that's something that I like. It's very entrepreneurial, obviously, to be able to have plenty of opportunity to increase your income. But if you're in a job right now and you just appreciate that you can count on the same thing every month and that drives you, awesome. Figure out what drives you. Jerry Goddard, he says, I was a narcotic investigator in California and Arizona, and then had a financial investigation company for 22 years. I'm now retired. I was and am still motivated to stand with the victim, help those who can't or don't know how to defend themselves. There's a great satisfaction in defeating evil and seeing or hearing the thank you in the eyes of the victim. There's also a great reward in the camaraderie of those who labor alongside you, lifelong and enduring friendships. There's financial reward also, but that's far down the list of benefits. I really like that one. I was talking just today in the Driven to Live community with one of the members and talking about, I was actually kind of goading him on to say, what is it that he does in his work, that he likes in his work, that is transcendent? A lot of people don't like that word. That is transferable. Let's say that, transferable. Meaning, well, here's my analogy. I have a buddy, Scott Stearman. If you want to see some incredible sculptures that exist around America in faith-based and military-based institutions, life-size and beyond sculptures, go to Scott Stearman, Stearman, scottstearman.com. One of my closest friends, and he is a sculptor. And he was asked at one of my events many years ago by another guy named Jimmy Gibson, who's a branding expert, asked Scott, what would you do? How could you do what you do in your work, the essence of what you do, if you couldn't use your hands? Well, Scott's a sculptor. So you're a sculptor. You figure, well, you can't do anything. And it really made Scott work and get to, again, the greater purpose of his work. And he says, well, gosh, before I did this sculpting, I worked in media, and it was TV back then. Big, the big cameras. He was the camera guy and took the videos and whatnot. And what he came to is he said, I just love telling a story that matters, a meaningful story. And I was able to do that in film Now I do it in sculpting. So if I didn't have my hands, I'll probably go back to film. Now it's interesting because today Scott is also an author. He has a book and he's a speaker. He's on stage, does these incredible presentations, really mainly on Jesus, while he is sculpting the face of Jesus, a depiction of the face of Jesus. It's really interesting. So again, doing things with his voice, obviously, and storytelling that is not dependent upon his hands. So interesting. I bring that up because Jerry talking about how he is, no matter what he's doing, he's motivated to stand with the victim, help those who can't or don't know how to defend themselves. That's not something I'm involved in. I do something different. But it's interesting to see that he knows the core essence, regardless of what the role or the application may be. And also appreciate him just talking about, I mean, he's obviously in a unique place. I'm going to relate it to military. A lot of people in the military have really, who especially have gone through trauma in the military, have strong ties with their fellow military, comrades in essence. And we see that in sports a lot. Back when I was in cycling, I mean, you form a tight bond because so few people really know what it's like, what the life is like, what the effort is like. And so you form bonds on shared experience and shared context that other people don't have. That's really neat. And I think maybe it's something that we can look at in your work. Do you have that? Could you have special ties with who you work with? Could you give them greater value maybe because of the shared context that not everybody has? Again, it depends on what you're doing. And we're talking about the core drive. Daniel Lopez, I think it comes down to turning it into a game. For instance, I heard a story of a delivery driver that during his pickups, he basically played Tetris with how well he could pack the boxes. At the end of the day, it's just a job and it's up to you to have a positive outlook no matter what you are doing. I should have pulled the quote out. You can find it. I think it was Michelangelo who said, in essence, if you're a street sweeper, sweep like you're doing it as unto God. That's my paraphrasing off the cuff. And is there the opportunity to do a great job no matter what you're doing, to do a masterful job no matter what you're doing? Yes, to have excellence in it even. And in that, no matter what you're doing, I do see the value of that. I mean, why not? It makes you just feel happier. Even if you're in a job that stinks, can you do an exemplary job just for your own integrity, your own feelings of doing well? And we see it depicted. I doubt there's many people who fit this in this audience listening, but we see it out there in the marketplace where people don't value a job. They don't feel like they're being treated well. And they use that as an excuse to just get by and do the minimums. And it just depletes us. They're doing that. They're acting that way in spite of themselves. It kind of goes back to Shanti Feldhahn, who I'm a friend of and a fan of is what I meant to say, but also a friend. Feldhahn, Feldhan or Hahn. Heck, I forgot. Shanti, Shaunti. She has a book called The 30-Day. She has lots of books. 30-Day Kindness Challenge, though, gets into the psychology of being kind. And the big takeaway from her message is that being kind, we do it because we think it's the right thing to do. We do it because we think it will help other people be kind to us. She says the biggest benefit is just what it does for us internally, even if there is no reciprocity. So being kind to someone who you think doesn't deserve it, ultimately the biggest beneficiary is you. It just helps you be happier, wholer, more fulfilled, more joyful than giving them what they deserve, being a jerk right back. In the same sense here, doing our work masterfully and gratefully, it benefits us, even if you loathe your employer. So how can you be exemplary no matter what you are doing and use that as a drive? Today, don't enjoy the product or the service or the people I work with or yada, yada, but I'm going to be driven by just doing a great job because it helps build me for future. Well, today it helps building and for future things. Candy Ritchie says, wanting to make a positive difference in the world, number one. 2, having compassion for others with handicapped conditions. And 3, being called to my career rather than it just being a job. I mean, this is you can get frustrated in any aspect of personal development with and counseling, therapy, whatever, going, come on, because you can get frustrated going, so you're just saying it's all in my head. And I believe personally, the answer is absolutely. It's all in your head. So much of it does not matter. It's just your head. But we're also manipulating our lives to help our head. So should I be grateful no matter what I'm doing? If it's providing the opportunity for me to grow and learn and providing money, whatever, sure. I'm going to make it easier on myself and give myself the chance to have more capacity and ability and fulfillment and joy by putting myself in a place that fits my gifts, talents, skills, abilities, propensities, predispositions, right? I'm going to do that. But it is all in my head. So do I need right now these two windows on both sides of me, giving me natural light where I'm looking at pine trees, I'm looking at the sun, I'm looking at a mountain here. When I did have my office on the other side of this building where I had a view of Pikes Peak as well. But I moved because this office is bigger. You can't really see those on the video, but it's a pretty good size office. But do I need that to be at my best? You could argue that it would be great since it's all in my head if I didn't, and I could do this in a dungeon, but it helps. It helps, but it is just fostering, just manipulating. So these mirrors or these windows that somebody could possibly in this day and age simulate on a screen that aren't even real, do they help the aspect of it's all in my mind? That they help. It's a lot of value in that. It's, again, we are playing with your mind. What can give you joy, fulfillment, capacity, and drive in your work? Here's a reply from Kevin Miller, not me. Not the most unique name in the world. He says, I'm a college history professor. I get the opportunity to shape the future by sharing the past. That's really cool. I get the opportunity to shape the future by sharing the past. He sees a bigger picture. I'm privileged to work with young people and help them find joy. I get to encourage critical thinking, and I get to show grace and mercy daily. I mean, think about that. That's the drive that he wakes up with, as opposed to somebody else, same job, who just says, I just teach history. It's something I do. I can make a buck. Who may still do a good job. I doubt they do as good a job as this Kevin Miller, but I want to learn history from somebody like that who sees a bigger picture. You want to give your money to people who are employed in the products and services that you're spending money on, who adore what they do, because you'll get a better experience. Michael, Ida, I don't know how you say the last name. I like the challenge of being a small real estate investor in an industry mostly dominated with deep pocket individuals and companies. It's harder every year to keep it going, but that's what makes the success even better. 16 years and still going. Great. Caleb Miller. Man, I know that name sounds familiar. Oh, right. That's my son. That's my oldest son. He says he enjoys serving people by giving back in ways that I've been given, therefore giving me the opportunity to be a light of encouragement, comfort, and hope where there often is very little. I'm number two, opening myself up to opportunities for social connection and growth, spiritual fellowship and connection, and any opportunity through the countless people I meet, because the possibilities are endless. Number three, making money. He's my kid. Of course, I've trained him up in this stuff. He does need money. He's not a trust fund kid, so he needs money, but he's looking for something that he cares about. So he is right now living in Florida. So he moved to Florida, got a job at a big hospital, really well-renowned hospital in the Sarasota area. Can't remember what the name of it is, but Caleb's story begins in a hospital, not just with his birth, but he had some complications at 5 days old that took him back into the hospital. He had a brain bleed, and he developed hydrocephalus. He had seizures, had epilepsy until about the age of 12, has a really incredible story of coming out of that, but spent a lot of his life in hospitals being cared for by everybody in the hospital. Where is he today? In the hospital, get what he said, giving back in ways that I've been given. And he knows that life. He knows what it feels like to be the scared patient. And so he is helping with patients right now. And he's starting at the bottom in this hospital and looking at working his way up, but realizes the opportunity he has not to just do what is needed for the hospital patient, but that he has an opportunity to be an encouragement, to be a light, to lift them up. And he's also digs being with a lot of people that he works with. That's not his dad. His dad enjoys right now what I'm doing, being in the office alone. And he enjoys being with people, and he sends us pictures. He's big into working out, weightlifting, and he does it a lot. His primary partner is a guy, a fellow associate at his place of work at the hospital. They met, they both had a shared interest, and they do that. He also goes to church with some of the folks that he works with as well. So he has greater drives. It's his social connection. It's where he wants to grow and progress as an individual and vocationally. Awesome. Brian Gross, I truly love what I do. It goes well beyond just providing a living for my family. John Maxwell once said that when your why becomes greater than you, then it becomes a calling. Listen again. When your why becomes greater than you, just taking care of yourself, then it becomes a calling. It's interesting because we often look at the calling, what you're called to do is this one thing. It's kind of the old City Slickers line. Jack Palance, the actor, I don't know what his name was in the movie, him saying, in essence, to Billy Crystal's character, you'll figure it out when you find that one thing. And Billy asks, what is that? He says, you got to figure out that one thing. We have to look at calling that way. I get that, and this is debatable, but do you only have one calling? I feel like you have a predisposition to be most fulfilled filling a certain role, a certain capacity, kind of like going back to the guy that talked about, helping the victims and whatnot. But you can do that in so many different things. So I need to be creating me. I need to have autonomy and create things and bring ideas and opportunities to life. I could do that in so many different facets. And if I go down the list of every business, I think I listed it out recently. I've started 19 different businesses. A couple of those were different branches within an existing business, but they were totally new endeavors. If I look at that, look at all those, there's the thread of what I feel like I'm called to do within all of those, but I don't believe you have to confine your calling in one role. Like you hear that a lot of times, why you're a pastor? Yeah, I was called to be a pastor. I would argue that a little bit, or challenge that and say, if I would guess that you feel called to serve people in a certain way that you could fulfill in a lot of roles. If I find people, it's often dangerous. They feel confined and limited when they only see the opportunity to walk out their quote calling in one specific role. Brian says, being in the insurance and financial services industry, I like the challenge that every day brings, and each person's financial situation is like a puzzle, and no two puzzles are the same. That's great. It's kind of like Dave Ramsey's show. I guess it's called the Dave Ramsey Show now, where, my gosh, every day I think it's got to be tiring, man. He's been doing this talk show stuff forever, but I think he views it as every person's unique, their situation's unique, and he can bring his calling to that. And Brian says, having done this for almost 25 years, I am now mentoring people, which brings great joy to me. And I would say he has a lot of wisdom to guide other people in. Marty, make a positive difference for my work peers, make a positive difference for our patients, help the management and help the management keep on being proud enough of me to leave me unpestered and paid. All right, I'm just going to try to read some here real quick just to share. Alan Thomas, he said, such a great question, Kevin. Here's what wakes me up every day. 1, how can I rescue one more man or woman that is hopelessly trapped in overweight and being overweight and obesity, even morbid obesity today? 2, helping these souls not only escape the obesity, but unleash their potential to the world as they release the excess weight. 3, how can I change the trajectory of obesity forever? So Alan is I'm going to call him a businessman. He's been involved in a lot of things. He's a good businessman. He's succeeded in a lot of things. He found himself very overweight and out of shape. And I think I would put him in the morbidly obese category. And I don't know his story, what inspired him, but he changed he lost weight, but he changed his self-image. He changed so much of his life. It inspired him. Now he's off on this quest to help people get out of obesity, but not even for the fat sake of it and the health aspect. He sees the dramatic benefit it provides to their psychology, to who they are, to what they feel they're capable of. And that's what excites him. And so he's coming at it in a different way. He said, man, I'm going to help you increase your hope, joy, inspiration, capacity for life, and losing this weight will. And that's their drive. He's helping them see that's their drive. Don't just focus on the weight. And he is so excited, so inspired by what he does, sees a bigger picture. It's beautiful. Bonnie Wagner Stafford, she's also someone I reached out to who's an early member of my Driven to Live community, which again, you can find at kevinmiller.co/community. You can also find it at driventolive.co. It's all .co because .coms are hard to come by. But Bonnie's in there, and she said, enriching the lives of others. Interestingly, she lives in Mexico and spends a lot of time with her husband living on a boat, traveling around, a sailboat, I think, has a home too. And she works in publishing and has a book out on helping people write memoirs, meaningful memoirs. Really neat. So she really works within the stories of other people. Here's another one, Soma Ray Hathaway, also a member of the Driven to Live community. She says, often the best motivation for me to work in the fine art realm is because I get in the zone. I can go hours without thinking about anything else in life. So she is an artist. That's what she does. Paintings primarily. She did one recently of my daughter, picture of my daughter out on a hike. Meaningful picture to me. She took it and she painted it. I'm going to be getting a printed or whatever they call it, not a digital, I don't know, some kind of copy of it soon. But she is an artist. She gets into the zone, which is interesting. I had on my show, one of my podcasts, Stephen Kotler, Kotler, who I knew the name prior because of his book with Peter Diamandis called The Future is Faster Than You Think. He then wrote a book called The Art of Impossible. And his company is called the Flow Institute, I think. That's his shtick. That's his platform. I want to be the drive guy. He is the flow guy. In the show that I did with him, I talked about that. He talks about being in the flow. You can call it being in the groove, being in the zone, whatever you want to. That's what he looks at and the benefits to us. And I not question, like challenge him, but just ask the question. It feels like it's hard to get into the flow with something unless you have some mastery in it. So she's talking about art. I feel that with writing, WRITING quite a bit. And I also feel it riding, RIDING on my mountain bike and trail running as well, is where I can get in. And I know I can do those things just responsively and reflexively. And I can get in the zone at some of my most joyful time, get in the flow, as Stephen would say. So she's talking about that, which again is a motivation to have mastery in our work. Though, let's say you don't, I'd say to have mastery somewhere. If you can go out and be in a zone gardening, you make up all kinds of things, whatever, but just the benefits of that. So that's what Soma is talking about, that she gets in that place in her work. That's a drive, is I want to do that work to experience that aspect of psychology, mental health, euphoria, whatever you want to call it. Curtis Stewart says, number one, doing something meaningful is what drives him. I don't know what he does, but apparently it's meaningful to him. Providing something that will benefit the customer and knowing that it will make a difference in someone's life. Tyson Franklin. Tyson lives in Australia, and I don't know if I think he's a podiatrist, but he works in that field. He says, number one, money. I really like having it. And I think he has quite a bit and he enjoys it. Number two, I love what I do and I'm good at it. Number three, I love helping others succeed. Beautiful. And he's an inspired guy. This goes back to, does he feel like he's saving the world with podiatry? And maybe he does. I mean, he's, helping people with foot pain and all kinds of stuff. But even if it wasn't something like, the building the cathedral aspect again, he just enjoys, he likes the money. He likes what he does. He's good at it. And he likes helping others succeed. And it makes him he is an inspired guy. He's a guy you want to be around. He adds light to the world. And I'm going to put that above whatever justification of value of the actual product or service he does. Kenny Baker. So Kenny, we were teammates on an elite cycling team. And I say elite and pro sometimes because there is a differentiation. A lot of the elite level cyclists race with the pros, but there are races that are just pro only. And I had time, so did Kenny, of having a pro license and having an elite license, depending on, well, lots of things. Anyways, Kenny and we're on I've got a cool picture. It might be on my website at kevinmiller.co on the about page. There might be a picture of us in these YMCA. That was the team we were sponsored by, and our outfits there. But he says calling, passion, and gratitude. And I wasn't sure what his exact work role was these days. I knew the realm that it was in. Matter of fact, Kenny just did the Race Across America, RAM, RAAM, that even if you're not in cycling, a lot of people know the Race Across America. He just did that with the team. I think they got third, maybe. He said, or I asked him, what exactly are you doing today, Kenny? He says, I'm a holistic personal training / coaching and manual therapy. That's what I'm in. Much of it is rooted in osteopathic medicine and various other therapies. It's always a challenge to accurately describe it. I mean, the guy's always been involved in the body and the mechanics of the body. His wife is as well. I think it's Pilates that she's involved in or was, but they both are in a similar work of helping people in the, well, again, holistic personal training and coaching and manual therapy, physical therapy. You could think of it that way. He's always been involved with it. He was an athlete. It fit right in there. That's how he met his wife, was within that realm. And they've been doing it for, goodness, 30 years, I guess. Christine Apple, doing something positive for the world. I enjoy the work I do, which is private and homeschool curriculum editor with a product promoting biblical values and character traits. Excellent. Number 2, she's a creature of habit, working for a company I've served for 23 years. And what also motivates her is a fear of the unknown. Okay, that's really cool. Because, okay, 1, she enjoys what she does. She sees a bigger picture. Number 2, she's a creature of habit. She's worked for the company and served for 23 years. Okay, that is not the entrepreneurial norm that we often are aware of. So to have, Christine working at some place so consistently it is not the entrepreneurial norm. I would not enjoy that. I love that she does. That drives her and gives her security. I think my son, Caleb, I just talked about, may have more of that propensity. He likes to know what to count on. And in that, it offers other opportunity than somebody like me, who's often jumping from one thing to another and starting new businesses and whatever. There are things I don't, different opportunities I don't get, in that. But to that degree, it doesn't matter about the opportunity. It matters about what drives you. And that drives Christine. And it goes real well with her fear of the unknown. So she doesn't want that. That will not drive her. She is driven by the known. Great. All right, here's one from Big Dan Miller, my father. If you don't know him, he's author of 48 Days to the Work You Love and other books, but that was his initial book that became a work and career classic. It sold millions of copies. Dave Ramsey's talked about it for years. Dan has always been his career go-to guy. You can go find him at 48days.com. Dan says, my father says, I keep going back to Daniel Pink's research. Daniel Pink is the author of a lot of books. I had him on the Ziglar Show. It's been years ago, but he says, I can't think of a better description of what gets me going each morning. And now this depicts what a lot of folks have said here. And that's why I wanted to, actually, I've got just a couple more, but I wanted to really highlight this one. He says, 1, autonomy, the opportunity to direct my own life. So he likes having that in his work. Now he is and always has been self-employed, but can you have autonomy in your job as an employee? Yeah, you can have certain roles. I had one in my adult life, actual job for 2 years, and I had a great autonomy in that. And can you just view yourself as being your own boss regardless? The opportunity to direct your life, you have that every day, even if you walk into a place of employment. But however you perceive that autonomy is often, it gives us drive. We do appreciate that to differing degrees. My buddy Randy would say we're all on the spectrum of autonomy. Some people need 100%, like Dan Miller does, like I pretty much do. But some people need a little bit. We all need to feel like we have some control and direction in our lives. But autonomy. 2, mastery, the opportunity to get better and better at something that matters. He has that as number 2 and part of Daniel Pink's research of what does drive us. And I think this came out of Daniel Pink's book. I think it was called Drive. And mastery, the opportunity to get better and better at something that matters. Most people like to make progress. It was Tony Robbins who said the happiest people are those who are making positive progress in their lives. That's my paraphrase, but that is the essence of it, who are making progress. And mastery is something, can I get better at what I am doing? And now we're talking about this with work. I would say that you will be a happy person if you've got that in any place in your life. If you don't have it in your work, but you've got it in a hobby, or you've got it in a side gig, or you've got it in some capacity in your life, you will be a happier person. But it's a great thing to have in your work. But he talks about mastery. That goes back to what I said about Stephen Kotler with flow, being in flow. We generally find that in mastery. And then 3, purpose, the opportunity to be involved in something larger than myself. And to back what I talked about at the beginning of the show, if you find that I find the opportunity to be involved in something larger than myself in my work and what I'm doing right this second, this is what I get paid for, is what I'm doing right now. And I find it something larger than myself right here. Now I'm going to give again that comparison to Dave Munson, who's right now in San Antonio, Texas, or Mexico at where his manufacturing is. I don't know. And if he's working on the design of a new high-end leather bag, does he feel like it intrinsically, in and of itself, is helping him be a part of something larger than himself? At this point, he may think that, yeah, it helps the employees and the people that he has. But more so, he sees that it helps his employees' lives in a bigger aspect of what they're doing. And it helps him fund his family and their investments in Africa and helping people there as well. Again, it's just the connection of what drives you. It doesn't have to be like me or even like Dave. How is it that you feel part of something larger than yourself, that you can connect to the drive that you have for work and what it affords you to be involved in or do? Again, it's your why. And it also makes me think of just the value of curiosity. It's such a benefit. I find happier people are more curious about things. So allow yourself that. And again, you don't have to justify it. Say, man, I'm just interested in X. Dave Munson's interested in design. I don't care about design. He likes design. He's curious about it. How's it saving the world, Dave? Who cares? Makes him a happier guy. And he goes out and blesses people by being Dave Munson. Cindy Wallace Sipes. I know her because she is actually lives here in my town, my small town up in Colorado. And she said, my word, integrity is important to me. Helping others, knowing that doing this is keeping me active and healthy as well. Now, she and her husband have a business. I think it's HVAC, heating and air conditioning and type stuff. But then she's also a coach. I think a coach, not a counselor, but she's a coach and works with people. And then last one I'm going to read here, Jessica Smith Moyer. Jessica has been a longtime podcast listener. She went to a Ziglar Legacy certification course in Dallas with Tom Ziglar and the Ziglar team and family there, and became Ziglar Legacy certified. She owns a brick and mortar, you call it a fitness facility. It's called the Ice House up in, I think they're in Delaware. Really cool thing, this old brick stuff. And she leads women in these fitness classes, but she does it to lift their lives. And she uses fitness as a platform. She's now a coach as well, and then coaches people, anywhere she can coach, but primarily or exclusively works with women. And she is also a member of my Driven to Live community. She's a primary member. And she said, what drives her? Impacting women's lives on a daily basis through importance of self-care, believing I am following God's calling, and providing for my family. A great one to end on there. And I really hope I have done justice to the importance of elevating the value of having drive in your work, being driven for your work, what that does for you, for humanity at large, but some different ways to look at it. It's how you can connect it. And if you're in work and you just can't, then that's pretty telling. Again, highly value you for doing what you got to do to put food on the table. But I would say your primary effort aside from that is to find something that is a better use of who you are and that you can wake up every day with drive. It is such a gift. I'm so grateful to wake up every day. I do not take it for granted. It's a privilege. I can't claim that I did it, so much. I've been given a lot, and grateful that I get up with interest. Call it, you can say passion, burden, a huge drive, saving the world, whatever. If nothing else, just interest. I am interested in what I get to do every day for my work. I do feel it's helping people, but in truth, is that the main thing that I wake up with? I wish I was that altruistic. I mainly wake up thinking about my own self-interest and what I'm interested to do in my work. And I have also made peace, finally, it took me too long, that I know my work is doing good to the people out there that receive it. I get those testimonies, and I know that it helps feed my family, and it inspires me, which inspires my family. And they testified that. It's neat having adult kids who have done that, that one of the most inspirational things for their lives is seeing me go after inspiration, and their mom too, my wife. So there you go. I hope I did a little bit of justice to you on the drive for your work. Coming up next in the What Drives You podcast, I'm going to be talking about what drives you financially. Now, a lot of people, we just did what drives you with work. Finances is a big part of that, but we can take finances, take money and set it aside here. And it has a lot to do with a lot of us, a lot of who we are, has so much to do with our lives. I have some baggage and hard story in my own life in regards to some errant drives with money. So was I driven to make money? Sure. Did I know what was driving me? No. And because of that, I sabotaged a lot. So that's coming up in episode 41 of the What Drives You podcast. Hey, till then, I really hope that you find what drives you and you stay driven.